there's contact already, and the number 3 goes sideways fire into the wall. And he's already bounced off the side of the car next to him. I'm not sure if they just...
Welcome, race fans, to the final round of the Genisus Extreme Trans Am Racing Challenge by HRSC. The drivers have fought their way through a tough season filled with a variety of different tracks, ups and downs along the way, and have decided to conclude here at a staple of North American sports car racing, Road Atlanta. This track is known for the fast nature, which can easily throw a car into the wall, but also rewards bravery with commitment through the S's. It's a track that all of the drivers should know extremely well and a classic to cap off the season. I'm Joey Atterbury, and joining me in the booth today is Alex Goldschmidt. We've also got Daniel Costello behind the scenes doing all the directing, making everything look pretty. But Alex, I'm super thrilled to be here. Road Atlanta, a great way to end off the season, kind of like Petit Le Mans does in the real world.
Yeah, a lot of elevation changes. Good to see you, Joe. Good to be alongside with you and welcome everyone to the stream. Yeah, Road Atlanta, it is a staple of North America sports car racing, and it really is going to be testing everybody, no matter what car they're going to be driving. You've got the elevation changes going through the right-hand sweeper at turn 1, all the way through to that incredibly crucial turn 5. Because you make the wrong move there, you go a little bit wide out of the corner, you can glance the wall, you can even pinball into opposition going across it, and then of course turn 10A, turn 10B, up the hill, underneath the bridge, down through a double right, which you really have to have intestinal fortitude, or as I like to say, the 4-letter word known as guts.
It's going to be an awesome race to watch, especially in these vintage machines. But this is the schedule that the drivers have done all year round. Started out over Riverside, hit up Road America, Mont Tremblant, scooted over to Lime Rock Park, and then even hit up Watkins Glen and Portland International Raceway. Took the place of that Bridgehampton Road circuit down there. But we find ourselves round number 7 here at Road Atlanta to really cap off just what has been a great season of Trans Am racing. We do also have those points championships. I believe that the Pro is already wrapped up, as well as that Am class. But what's happening right now is I think we've got a warm-up and standings here on the screen finally. That's what I was talking about, the Rafa Racing Club. Jurne Simoncic, I know we don't have the totals here on screen, but I believe that he has already wrapped up that championship. CUDA crew well represented by these next 2 drivers, Matt Wright as well as Reese Gardner over there. Then we have Devin Braun. He's returned at Road Atlanta, tied for 4th with Ross McGregor. Also, Nicholas Kirsten, Darren Andrews, Tom D, Ascari Continent, as Riley Wyans rounds out the top 10 in that pro standings. But we also have the AM standings, Alex, all in the same cars, just a different driver rating.
Yeah, Nikolai Bavenbeck from Rally International leading teammate Chris Gordon. Split by 24 points coming into this round. 87 for Bavenbeck and Gordon on 63. Mike Mallon for Motorsports on 52. So we'll have a tall order to hit the top of the championship standings at the end of this, but could gun for second by the end of it. Afan Weaver from Fish Motorsport alongside Mark Johnson, obviously daughter and father running in the same league. Filippo Marazzi from Scuderia Prealpina, Steph Hermans, Bruno Chacon, Steve Carman and John D round out the top 10. And then we have to go on to the team standings as well, because it's not quite settled in that one yet, Joey.
And yeah, well, it's Rafa Racing Club as well as that CUDA crew over there. There's lots of teams represented, and honestly, I'm going to be pulling them up over here myself. Was ready to go on over to Road Atlanta and talk about this track map, exactly about this place here in Braselton, Georgia, a place that I know extremely well, like the back of my hand. It's going to be extremely fun watching the Trans Am cars go through this extremely fast and flowing racetrack. Hopefully stay off of that red Georgia clay as well. And I think that we've got our warm-up officially ending, so we'll have our starting grid coming up on the screen very, very soon. I believe it has been that Devin Braun character in that Chevy Camaro that's been leading the way in practice as well as warm-up. And I do have to say, at the beginning of this season, he opened up with a win over there at Riverside, as we get a look at this track map, which everybody knows so well here in Georgia. Road Atlanta, an extremely well-known circuit, and I think we're just patiently waiting right now, Alex, for the starting grid to be available for us, and all of a sudden we'll have some cars lining up on the racetrack.
Yeah,
Here we go. On pole, Jurne Simoncic in the 17 car with Devin Braun next to him in the 22. Jesper Peterson in third with Askari Kantanen here in fourth. In fifth place, we've got Daniel Herlock-Bowe with Reese Gardner next to him in sixth. Martin Beyer in seventh with Tom D starting in eighth place with JTD Racing in that number 41. In ninth, we've got Nicholas Hildebrand with Nicholas Kirsten lined up next to him. Austin Birchfield in the number 31 with Darren Andrews and another one of those Chevy Camaros lined up in 12th. In 13th, we have Nikolai Bavenbeck, a multi-time AM winner with Steph Hermans in 14th. Declan Brush in 15th, as well as Mark Johnson in one of those Ford Mustang Boss 302s. In 17th, we have David Baccaceladone with Mafanui Fleur in 18th. Mike Mallon 19th. Chris Gordon in 20th place, and a few more cars on the final page here. Jonathan D in the number 42 with Jason Field in 22nd, and Gerard Rion rounding out the 23 Trans Am cars that we are going to see take the grid here. I mentioned it's going to be an exciting time. Nothing is more exciting, Alex, than definitely the opening lap. You don't have the tires up to temperature. You're still trying to get the brain up to temperature yourself, but all of those decisions, they got to be made pretty quick.
Yeah, because a moment's lapse of concentration around here at Road Atlanta, Joey, is going to cause you a big, big problem. Of course, we've got two guest starters, Daniel Herlock in fifth place in the number 16 Mustang Boss 302, and Jason Field in the number 48 Barracuda. So they're not going to play any part in how the rest of the championships, how they're going to play out, because looking back at the team standings, it is nip and tuck between two main crews. Rally International and Rafa Racing Club are 11 points adrift coming into this final round of the Trans Am Series here at Road Atlanta. And one of the things I love about this series, Joey, good old American muscle, and it's going to be naturally aspirated all the way.
You gotta love the sounds. There's no replacement for displacement. I think that's how the saying goes, and the drivers are on the exploratory pace lap right now. So we'll be doing 55 laps under green flag conditions. This is all the way at the far end of the circuit, turn 6 and then turn 7 right here. Arguably the most important turn on the racetrack. Also the slowest turn on the racetrack, but it leads you out onto this long snaking straightaway, which provides the highest top speed and the biggest brake zone at the end. Well, Alex, it's time to kind of strap in tight, tighten up those belts, wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes, because we're about to get going green flag racing here. We've got a Camaro and a Firebird on the front row.
Music to my ears, Mr. Attlebury. I'm really looking forward to this, and of course speeds will be hitting close to 160 miles an hour like we saw in qualifying earlier on before we went live here on the broadcast. But yeah, Simoncic, Browner and Pedersen are known to be very, very quick off the mark, but can anyone chase them down is the big question we will answer after 55 laps.
Here comes that Pontiac Firebird through turn 10B, up under the bridge and over the crest, patiently waiting for that green flag to be displayed just around this turn number 12 corner. You see everybody stacked up nicely 2 by 2. A very late call to the green, and they're finally standing on the gas. That's Jurne Simoncic with an excellent hole shot, leading the entire field down into this arcing turn number 1. Devin Braun slips into second place in that Camaro, but actually gets a good run up the hill. He pokes the nose out to drivers right as they crest up to the top at turn 3. This is always a little bit of a nervous area, especially when you're racing side by side on the opening lap. You gotta leave room for the competitors, and now we go down the S's for the first time. All 23 cars on the racetrack and up and over these curbs around turn number 5. Launch it up and over and down this short shoot straightaway.
Yeah, also Jesper Pedersen looking to dive up the inside through at turn 6 on Devin Brauner. I also saw that Reece Gardner was trying to make a move on Daniel Hurlock, going through into turn 1 very, very easily. Of course, these cars naturally aspirated, no ABS, no traction control. It's 4 to the floor and it's old school. And this is where the drivers really have had to battle all the way through this season here, Joey. But Jesper Pedersen hoping to get a double toe from Simoncic, his teammate who was leading, with Devin Brauner looking to the inside. Here at turn 10A, decides to think better of it. But also Daniel Hurlock completely snaking under braking the Boss 302, number 16, manages to get it stopped in head of the Cuda 94 of Reece Gardner, battling for 5th and 6th respectively.
I think it was Daniel Hurlock that had that huge lockup going in, and then right in front of him, that's Ascari Continent going off at turn number 12. So the first lap definitely throwing a couple curveballs at these drivers. This is a Camaro versus Mustang battle for what is 4th place. Come up over the crest, and oh, that's not really a passing opportunity. The number 16 definitely was trying to fill the mirror of Cantonen right in front of him, maybe force him into a mistake, and you see all of the body roll of these heavy muscle cars as they really make their way around this fast road Atlanta circuit. Devin Braun doing an excellent job up front, hanging with these Firebirds, and he's applying pressure to our leader. You see him almost getting the nose up along the inside, not quite there in order to really open the door, but down the back straightaway. The story of the entire season has been the different performance window between the cars. Let's see who's got that top end speed. Is it going to be the Camaro today or the Firebird?
Oh, Devin Brauner looking towards the outside. This is the run down through into turn 9, and then hard on the brakes into turn 10A. Devin Brauner makes the move on Jene Simoncic before the apex and now takes the race lead here on lap 2. Incredible performance. I mean, you said about the performance window, you know, the Firebird, when you get it out of the corners, you point it, you hit that throttle, you jam it, you jam it up the gears, and here comes the move from Hurlock up the inside of Cantonen, and they were nearly touching panels coming out of turn number 12. That is incredibly risky from Daniel Hurlock. Bearing in mind, he's not scoring any points in this. He's a guest starter, and he's got off, and he's going to go into the barriers, and so does Reece Gardner go off the circuit in the number 94 Barracuda. That was exactly what we didn't want going into T1, and it's happened early there, Joey. Yellow in Sector 1.
I think that Reece Gardner might have been able to salvage his race right here, because I don't think that he actually made it all the way to the tire wall. Now, he has obviously lost a ton of time and track position, but oh man, what a tough break for Reece. And for anybody who hasn't seen the entire season, this number 94 car has been one of the fastest cars all year long. He's actually won a race back at Portland International Raceway. He led the majority of the race at Watkins Glen until those Firebirds finally took over near the end. But he has not had any sort of good luck, and I think the bad luck trend kind of continues for this green and gold Australian number 94. If you ask me, looking at that turn 1 incident, I think that Reece, he was totally fine being on the outside here. This is exactly what we're going to see. Everybody's stacked up to the inside. He takes the long way around the outside, which is always a little bit dangerous. He sees the 16 slide in front. He actually checks up. That's what hooks the 16 into the wall. Let's see, does Reece actually get into the tire wall? Alex, I think he might have gotten away with it.
He definitely had one of his 9 lives taken away from him quite literally then. But also the fact that this is really going to change the development in how the championship is going to stand in terms of those placing behind Jene Simoncic. Of course, Matt Wright from the Cuda crew in the number 49. I don't see on the timing screen. So the battle really for what is effectively going to be third in the championship standings. If Devin Browner wins the race, it's 20 points. That puts him on 52. And more to the point, that's going to put him P3 in the standings, despite the fact having come back after a significant hiatus from the championship. But Devin Browner has always been a tour de force in these on this particular simulator on RF2. He's been an absolute wizard on it. So is Simoncic in his own right. You look at the kudos that some of the drivers that we have with Simoncic, Pedersen, Palmer, also the fact that Martin Bay was actually not too far behind the incident that we saw between number 94 of Reece Gardner and then also the number 16 of Daniel Hurlock, who effectively his race was over. We're getting a bit of checking up here though between the 41 of Tom D, and then just behind him in the 71 Chevrolet Camaro is also Devin Browner's teammate Nico Hildbrand.
That Camaro, that kind of eerily similar to the Sunoco livery up there, running in that third place in the train that we're currently following. That's that number 24 car of Bayer out front. Tom D in that 41 giving chase in the Camaro, that, call it dark blue and white, and big time lockup from a big heavy car trying to get it slowed down. And here comes another move from a Boss 302, the cream and red number 3 looking to the inside. And just as I saw from the previous lap, these drivers starting to take liberties with the track limits out there. And we've actually had a change for the lead, and not just a change for the lead, but that Chevy Camaro of Devin Braun, who was out front, now finds himself in third place. I wonder if he made a mistake and maybe went off the track and both of the Firebirds got by at the same time. We'll have to take a look at exactly how that went down, but I was actually expecting Devin Braun to start to run away a little bit. You see the Camaro already battling back on the straightaways, already taking away second position from Jesper Peterson out there. So I think that kind of shows that it was a mistake out of this number 22 Camaro. And in fact, here we go. This is the number 5 turn section. Just doesn't get the front end all the way in there. And holy smokes, almost had 3 wide. We almost had a crash between all 3 of our leaders right there.
That could have been a disaster right there for all 3, as you rightly said there, Joey. But Devin Browner able to gather it up, but just had a big old carry of snap-on understeer, and it was quite hefty, especially with the body roll on these muscle cars. Going through that turn 5, you're seeing that they're sliding. The front suspension is literally, as they're going over the curbing, is bouncing quite significantly. You can see that it's like the front end of both the Pontiacs and the Camaros are bunny hopping their way through the curbing coming out of turn number 5, and pretty much every curb that they assault here at Road Atlanta. But for Jesper Pedersen, who's put in the fastest lap of the race as well, a 1:29.726. Don't count out Devin Browner, but when you've got 2 teammates who are running 1-3 at the moment, this is looking pretty good at the moment for the Rafa Racing Club. But Devin Browner again trying the same tactic he did on lap 2 on Jurnej Simoncic. Now he does the old Nigel Mansell dummy, switches to the inside line for turn 10A, which is going to put him on the outside for turn 10B. Is he getting an edge ahead? No, Simoncic shuts the door, stays on the racing line, closes it off. This could open the door for Pedersen here, but Palmer still holds his ground, and there goes Pedersen up the inside. Now it's a Rafa 1-2.
That was excellent work from the teammates there. You saw just kind of the door open with the Camaro being on the wrong side of the racetrack, and there he goes, just throwing it right back to the inside of turn number 1. Reece Gardner has caught the back end of the pack. Remember, we saw him have that little bit of an oopsie in turn 1 with one of the Mustangs a little bit earlier, and officially confirmed that he is back up on the wheel. And oh my goodness, you don't see too wide going down through the S's very often. And now a big wag of the tail from that 917 is going to not provide him the exit, the power down that he wants. The Camaro is going to take advantage, but he's on the wrong side of the road here in turn number 6. Let's see, does he capitalize on an over-under? You can usually use a little bit of that banking, a little bit of that camber in the racetrack, but I think Devin Braun realized the strength of the Camaro is definitely on the straightaway. But something I'm noticing here, That blue and yellow Camaro, that number 22 car, seems to be driving maybe a little bit aggressively. It might be just over the head of the car a little bit. The car's really moving around quite a bit, and that could lead to some of those mistakes.
Yeah, especially if the car gets a bit tail happy, Joey. I mean, we're now seeing he's going side by side with Pedersen, and he's going to tail it to the outside, but trying to apply the traction, trying to apply the power on the back end of that Camaro Z28. You're going to have troubles trying to really get the run out of that corner, and both of them go skirting over the grass. You said about track limits. They are more than being circumvented. They are literally being abused as Pedersen goes off at T1, and that gives daylight to Devin Browner, and Oskari Kantonen, the flying Finn in the 72 Chevy Camaro, is right with Jesper Pedersen in the battle for P3.
I think that could have been the mistake that kind of opens up this race just a little bit, as we're going to get a replay of what happened to this number 42 Camaro. This is Jonathan D entering turn number 1. Ooh, eerily similar from what we just saw out of Pedersen, and just loose going in. Typically what we see when we have a loose condition going into turn number 1 is just too much speed. You're carrying so much speed into that turn 1 braking marker that it's easy to just overdo it a little bit, and usually the front end grips a little bit more, and then you have a big old drift through turn number 1. It looks pretty neat, Alex, but it doesn't always end up the fastest.
Very true, and Jonathan D actually ended up pointing his nose down the pit road exit there, Joey, as Nicholas Kirsten goes off and tangles with the barrier coming out of T7. So there's going to be a lot of damage to the Lando Lupi number 31 Boss 302, who was battling away with Nicholas Hilbrand. That one being for P6 on the road, as David Backer in the number 4 car runs 17. That's going to be a DNF, unfortunately, for Nicholas Kirsten. So we're already down 2 cars out of 23, so down to 21 runners and riders. But there are some really good battles happening up and down the order. I mean, this one between Pedersen, I mean, the biggest difference between D and Pedersen was that Pedersen had chronic understeer going through into turn 1 as Kantonen bumps over the curbs through roundabout T2 at the top of the hill. But Jonathan D was completely sideways. Jesper Pedersen had chronic understeer, but just kept the throttle pinned, let the steering open up and let the car do the work rather than him do the work, and it stopped him from turning the car around completely.
Something that has piqued my interest throughout the season is the pit stop strategy that has been played out as we watch our top 4 race their way onto the back straightaway. Big time slide from that Firebird, that 917 car. But last time out, there was lots of interesting strategy being played. I think we even had 3 or 4 stop races as Kantonen is trying to use that power of the Camaro. I wanted to talk about the pit stops, but I think that Kantonen might be making a move, maybe just saving a little bit of fuel, which plays into my talking point. If you can save fuel in these Trans Am cars, it always seems to pay off, whether that means a shorter pit stop time or just be able to run a little bit longer than most of the other competitors and find yourself in a better track position. And last time out at the Glen, I mentioned lots of different pit stop strategies. Let's just put the 2 most basic up here for today. It's a 55 lap race. If you want to make it a 1-stop race, you're going to go to lap 27 or 28. That's splitting it halfway down the middle. However, if you want to make it a 2-stop race, you're going to be looking at about lap 18 or lap 19. I mentioned this because we're already on lap 11. If people are going to be doing that 2-stop strategy, you're going to start to want to think about it right now.
Yeah, that was a big old wiggle coming through turn 12. The back end of Chris Gordon's Mustang Boss 302 just completely getting it all crossed up. The tail end was looking a bit more than happy. It was swinging all over the shop. And that allowed Tom D to get through out of that final right-hander. The double right at this circuit here at Road Atlanta, Joey, is just one where you've just got to be fully committed. And Reese Gardner is now 1 place away. Oh, that's a mistake there from Steph Hermans coming out of turn number 5. And what a comeback from the Barracuda number 94 of Reese Gardner. Now up to 10th position. There's still plenty of time in this race, Joey. And there's still every opportunity that if Gardner gets past Browner, which is going to be a tall order in its own right, could secure him that possible third place in the championship in the pros.
He's been consistently one of the fastest cars. I mentioned he just hasn't had the best of luck out there on the racetrack. And in fact, if he hasn't had any bad luck, I would say that he would have no luck at all, unfortunately. As we watch Mark Johnson in the number 18 car, this is the Ford Mustang, the maroon car. He's currently chasing that 13th car. I believe that's Tom D right in front of him in one of the Chevy Camaros. I noticed a little bit of smoke coming out of that black and cream at number 41 going down the straightaway. That could be from a variety of different things. Usually what we see with these Trans Am cars is that if they follow too closely and it's a warm day, you'll have those engine temperatures, you'll have the water, the oil temperature start to creep up and up and up. And if you don't take care of your car and get it in clean air and start to cool it back down, you can start to lose a little bit of that fluid out the back end.
Yeah, and it could also result in a loss of performance as well. But Tom D makes his way in, well, he's currently in 12th position. So, yeah, I mean, the thing is that with oil and cooling temperatures, that can also that can also mean a lack of performance when it comes to putting the power down. You know, if the engine's overheating, it's not going to be firing as it should do, as Chris Gordon has just lost another position, and that's going to be to Celadon going into turn 6. So Chris Gordon in the number 88 Mustang Boss 302 drops down outside of the top 15. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Tom D sort of tries to negotiate his way past the traffic in front. But also, yes, if you're running in the dirty air, like say coming out of turn 7 on the run down to turn 10A, if you're in the slipstream of somebody else, yeah, the oil and the coolant temps could go through the roof depending on how careful you are or are not.
Look at how busy it is down here at turn 10A. At the number 88 of Chris Gordon already making his way through this bunch of traffic here. Got that Dodge Challenger out there as well as the Ford, and oh, that's pretty risky. You usually don't go next to another car down through turn number 12. It is such a fast corner down through there. And here is even more traffic. Our leaders making our way through it. And Devin Braun, you know, I thought maybe the mistakes were going to cost him quite a bit, but both himself and the 917 of Peterson have been able to make their way back up to Simonchich, and it's a drag race down the back straightaway. I expect that Camaro to have the good side of the road, the racing line going into turn 10A, the flames out the pipes. They're both hard on the brakes, and sure enough, the 917 tucks right back in between himself and, oh my goodness, I didn't expect the over-under. Here comes Peterson looking to the inside of turn number 12. Braun shuts the door in the Camaro.
Yeah, Devin Braun was so heavy on the brakes that the left front locks up into turn 10A. And what this has all done is that the top 4 now covered by just a fraction under 1.1 seconds, because the number 72 of Oskari Kantanen has really come into this. So looking at the previous lap times, Simonchich a 34.1, Brauner a 33.1, Pedersen a 33.1, Oskari Kantanen in his last lap a 131.8. So whilst the trio at the front of the field has been battling away, is all Oskari Kantanen completely sideways, applying the power through that turn 5 as, well, Chris Gordon's just brought out a brief yellow in the 88 Mustang Boss 302 coming out of turn 10B. That is not exactly what you want, and they are coming up to back marker traffic now. So this quartet here battling for the overall race lead are really going to have to cross the T's and dot the I's here, Joey, because if they've got a back marker in front, what can that normally spell? Trouble.
Why Road Atlanta has provided such awesome racing action is because, look at, you're constantly dealing with the traffic. Here comes a move from way downtown. The Chevy Camaro sends it, and now our leader's getting held up from the 48-3 wide as we exited 10B. The Camaro's going to be on the wrong side, and in fact, it's going to be Peterson going from 3rd to 1st. I just think that was a little bit, and now he's off the road. This is going to set up turn number 1. between the two teammates.
Oh, Browner through the middle!
The middle, 3 wide, and now it settles down. It's going to be Siemenčić taking back the lead with Peterson there in second place. Braun in third. Holy smokes, it has all erupted on the start of lap number 15 here. Cantonen, I think, has the best seat in the house. He's sitting back there saying, you guys are absolutely crazy, but keep at it, because if you keep it up, all three of you are going to wreck, and I'm going to take the lead.
Yeah, this could really put paid to whatever strategies in terms of pit stops, as you rightly said, Joey, as flames shooting from both sides of both Firebirds, heading into T6 and now into T7. I mean, Browner was just absolutely committed of firing up the inside. I mean, Pedersen had such a head of steam coming out of turn 12. He went grass tracking, and then all of a sudden Siemenčić went, right, that's it, job done. I'm going to take back the lead. But here comes Browner again. He's going to try and get the toe. But Oskari Cantonen is, as you said, waiting the wings, and there's smoke coming from the exhaust of Devin Browner's car as well at this point, because he's running in the dirty air so much. You can see the onboard from Jesper Pedersen's bonnet from the hood of the 917 Pontiac Firebird, as right up his exhaust pipes is the 22 Chevy Camaro of Devin Browner coming out of turn 12, and again Pedersen goes grass tracking. Browner's got the inside line going into turn 1, and he's made the move before the apex even is reached. Well done, Devin Browner, but Jesper Pedersen is just constantly going way too wide coming out of T12, and that is hampering him.
We take a look at another battle here. I think this is Tom D getting around Steph Hermans a little bit further in the back. I think this might actually be one of our AM class battles back here. Steph Hermans currently in the 12th place, running in, I believe, second in the AM class. I know we haven't really talked much about that pro versus AM battle. Nikolai Bavenbeck currently has that AM class lead. He's running in 9th overall, while Steph Hermans right here is our second place in that AM class, running in 12th overall. The third place is Mafanui Fleur back there in the number 14. There's actually a car between her and Steph Hermans up here. We'll just have to keep an eye on that AM class battle. I will say that Bavenbeck has done a tremendous job this season. 3-time winner throughout all of the races, and it looks to be that he's going to try to make it a 4-time winner here at Road Atlanta. As we check back in on our leader, we saw more smoke coming out of that blue and yellow Camaro. You heard Alex say it's just from following too closely. The best way that I can explain it is when you're driving through the air and nobody's in front of you, well, guess what? It's just regular old ambient air temperature. Whatever the air temperature is, that's what's going in the radiator. When you're following a car in front, you got all of that exhaust gas, all of that extremely hot engine temperature being dumped out of the car in front of you and straight into your car. So what was, call it a 75, 80 degree day, can turn into a multi-100 degree day. That is the engine. That's what it is breathing. That's why the cars can overheat so quickly and so easily.
Yeah, and you can tell it's getting a bit even more scrappy now, Joey, because you look at the amount of track limits they were circumventing going through into turns 3 to 4, heading into 5. But Siemenčić now has about a half-second advantage, maybe make that 6/10 over Devin Browner. So the further that Devin Browner stays away from the exhaust tailpipes of Jene Siemenčić, that's going to help him in terms of keeping clean air into the air intakes on that Chevy, but also it's going to help keep the coolant temperatures down. And now we see the closing speed. Right, here we go. Devin Browner to the outside, through into turn 9. Smoke bellowing again from the exhaust pipes on the number 22 Chevy. Now into turn 10-8. Back into the lead goes Devin Browner. 2 wheels into the air on the left-hand side. And Jesper Pedersen bouncing up and down like a yo-yo on a string and trying to get that front end compliant, heading into turns 11 and 12. And hopefully this time he won't go wide. No, nice and tight from the 917. The Danish driver manages to keep it a bit more within the 2 lines on the track.
A little bit curious what happened to Siemenčić that last time around, because it seemed to me that the Camaro was just so far back on the straightaway. It was rather impressive, the closing speed at the end. I wonder if maybe he missed a shift, but then the same thing kind of happened, the lack of acceleration out of turn 10B, and I look at his last lap time, a 31.6. Compare that to Devin right in front, who overtook for the lead at a 30.6, so a full second faster. I don't think that there's a problem with the number 17. It's just something that caught my eye. It could also be fuel save. I mentioned the fuel game, the strategy game has been all over the place as the Camaro just puts too much power to the ground, spins up those rear wheels, and really suffers from traction on the corner exit. This could be an opportunity for the Firebird, but this is literally going to be a drag race, and we've seen the Camaro have the better performance on the straightaway. Peterson giving a push to his Firebird teammate, both Rafa Racing Club Firebirds working together, and the number 17 goes back to the lead. Exactly what the Camaro didn't want. He was trying to cool off his engine, trying to have that clean air in front. Well, guess what? He's got a car. Oh, now a huge wiggle. I don't know if that was contact between second and third, but hang on to it, Devin Braun.
Oh, that was nearly a clean-up on aisle 3 for the number 22. Like the back end stepping out to the left-hand side through that turn 12. I mean, you could see the back end fishtailing quite significantly as we've got a yellow out in sector 3. Is again all Browner all kind of sideways and crossed up. They're having to manhandle these things, and I think you could be very well right that there's a little bit of team strategy being put into play here between Simoncic and Pedersen. They know each other very, very well. They've worked together for so many years, and I would imagine the fact that they might be doing, possibly a one-stop strategy where you said they'd be coming in lap 27, 28, and Simoncic lost a second to Browner on a couple of laps ago on lap 17. But I think it was just like Simoncic was it's probably communicating with Jesper saying, you know what, I'm going to hang back a little bit here as we go to a replay. This is Austin Birchfield in the number 31, and this is into turn 10A. And just taps the curb. He's going to be a bit too heavy on the throttle, a bit too late, and it spins the 31 around, knocks over one of the CrowdStrike placement boards for good measure here out of turn 10B. But Jesper Pedersen again is going to look to possibly go for the inside move, maybe into T1. This time Browner a little bit more composed in the 22 Chevy, but he gets two wheels on the grass and keeps the throttle full to the floor there, Joey, and manages to keep Pedersen at bay for the meantime.
And since these cars have made it to lap 20, what I am going to assume, which is the worst case scenario, don't ever trust a commentator, is that they're going to try to make it to lap 27, 28, call it that 50% halfway point, come in and just stop once. I think that how hard they're driving, it would have had tire fall off by now, and I'm looking at the lap times. The fastest laps are high 29s, call it 29.8, 29.9, something like that, and they're turning about 30.7. So less than 1 second of fall off, but I also look, they're racing each other. There's tons of time fall off just in that itself. They're not turning quote unquote efficient fast laps. So I don't think that the undercut or the overcut is necessarily going to play big dividends here. What I think in terms of strategy, if you're that number 22 of Devin Braun, I would come in maybe 1 lap early if you can afford to. If you can make it on fuel, come in 1 lap early because it might put you in clean air. And that might be the 1 lap that you need in order to clear these two Firebirds. Now, alternately, if you're the Rafa Racing Club, you got 2 cars up front, and you see Peterson already trying to get to the inside. He's going to. The Camaro just suffers from traction coming out of 10B, but shuts the door coming through turn number 12, and Pedersen once again off the racetrack. He'll hang on to 3rd place. But what I was going to say about the strategy with the Rafa Racing Club is you have 2 cars up front. Split the strategy. Have one of them come in 1 or 2 laps early. That way you can cover that undercut from the Camaro, and have one of them go 1 or 2 laps long. That way you kind of cover both of that overcut and undercut strategy. I think that's the best team game.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see what Oskari Kantonen is going to be able to pull out of the bag here as well. There is Devin Browner's teammate, Nicholas Hilbrand, currently running a steady 6th place in the number 71 Chevy Camaro. He's a little bit behind Martin Bayer in the number 24 Barracuda. Reese Gardner, said being one of the fastest out there in the 94 Plymouth. He's currently up to 8th place at the moment and is 2.2 seconds back from Darren Andrews in the number 9 Chevy Camaro. But there we've got Nikolai Bavenbeck, who's currently running P10, still leading the AMs at the moment, but Tom D is about 6.8 seconds behind the 66 Firebird. Tom D being the that's a top 9 lockout for the pros. If Tom D gets past, there's a touch between. I think that was Simoncic on Browner, and Pedersen's going to mug the pair of them going through turn 11 and turn 12 again, and still the battle continues. I know for a fact that there is a big Cheshire Cat smile on Oski Kantonen's face as they've got a back marker in front. Oh, that's the two Rafa Racing teammates into each other. That was the 42 of Jonathan D that was in the way, and look who's profited straight away, Oskari Kantonen.
And just more aggression out of these top 4. I absolutely love watching it. I did not expect the crazy late move, and now Pedersen through the grass in the downhill S's. Braun struggling to get the car down. Does he hit the tire wall on exit of turn 5? He makes it back onto the track. Somehow it opens the door because he got a bad exit out of turn 5. Pedersen trying to be late on the brakes in that Firebird, and now is going to put himself nicely down the inside of turn number 7, really box out that Camaro, and we have a 4-car drag race. Firebird, Camaro, Firebird down the road, Atlanta back straightaway. 3 of them all deciding to bump draft, and Devin Braun in that blue and yellow Camaro left out to dry. Now the Camaro's driver's right, the Firebird's driver's left. Who's bravest on the brakes? It seems the 22's going to hang on to the lead while Kantonen slips back into 4th.
Yeah, I think Kantonen might be playing games with these 3, if I'm honest with you. He's just like going, okay, right, I'll take 3rd, I'll slip back to 4th. I don't want to damage the machinery as much as I can handle it, as both Pedersen and Browner go wide coming out of turn 12 once again. It's just incredible, the relentless rate of aggression that we're seeing from the top 3 as Devin Browner trying to control that 22 Chevy as Pedersen sideways through out a T3. I mean, like, and again, like, you're just seeing how hard these drivers are pushing. We're running in the 132.4 for Devin Browner. Yes, for Pedersen, 132.8. So the drop-off is really starting to play into the hands of Oskari Kantonen, who was just sitting back and chilling on a 133.1. But as I said, I think now the dark horse is Oskari Kantonen. The reason being, he's just been hanging back and just seeing what's going on in front of him. Just saying, as you rightly put, Joey, earlier on, you 3 are madder than a box full of frogs, and I'm just going to watch you all play out the story in front of me. And if I can take advantage, I will.
I mean, here we go again. It's just every single lap down the back straightaway. Who's going to pull the draft? Who's going to be the bravest on the brakes? And once again, the Camaro's got the inside line, and Pedersen really struggling to get the car down to apex. Wouldn't be surprised. Yep, Yurne going to go up the inside. Just nice over-under move, capitalized on the power down on corner exit. Just got to make sure Pedersen keeps it on the track there. He's had so many problems with turn number 12 already. We've seen him go 4 wheels off quite a bit through that corner. But I agree that Kantonen's in a good spot as Pedersen gave a huge shove to his teammate at apex there. Usually that means he's going too slow at apex. I had mentioned that Simoncic, it was kind of slow down one of the straightaways maybe 5-10 laps ago. I really do wonder if there's some fuel games being played. We're only, call it, a handful of laps away from that halfway point in the race, so I expect if he has saved a little bit on gas, he can come in a little bit early. It might provide him that undercut opportunity and then out into some clean air. But this lap, not so good for that 4th place car of Oskari Kantonen. It's actually dropped off the back just a little bit. We heard Alex talking about those lap times, 31s, 32s when they're racing. I was noticing Reese Gardner, the fastest car on the racetrack at a 1:30 still in that green and gold number 94. He's nowhere to be found in terms of track position, but if these front 4 keep fighting, it might just breathe a little bit of wind in the sails.
Yeah, he's quite close. He's about half a second behind Darren Andrews in the number 9 Chevy Camaro. rounding out the top 7. So Reece Gardner on a push. And in comparison with Darren Andrews, there you see Gardner closing in. And the closing speed for the number 94 Cuda is going to be quite prolifically seen right about now as he pulls to the left-hand side. This is going to be like taking candy from a baby very, very quickly as they're going to go down the hill out of turn 9 into turn 10A. Gardner snaking under braking, but still manages to launch it on the apex, get through and have a car length of advantage. But he's too heavy on the throttle coming out of turn 10B. And what's more, Darren Andrews back up the inside to retake the place in the number 9 car. Incredible composure that some of these drivers are having, but still the battle between the top 3, you can't really separate them at the moment, as bit sideways there for Andrews through T1, a bit tighter from Reece Gardner, who's been able to turn that Cuda car quite nicely around some of the corners, and is not so aggressive on the curbing. And sometimes they do say, Joey, that smooth is fast, and it's very much the case with Reece Gardner in the 94.
What you're talking about, I've pointed out several races here in this HRSC championship because Reece, I think, is very proud of the setup that they've been able to deliver on this Cuda Cruise. You see him look down to the inside. Now, typically today at Road Atlanta, we've seen that Camaro be the monster on the top speed, right? It's just kind of driven away from those Firebirds up front. Now, I can say that this Plymouth Barracuda has even more top speed than that Camaro. However, we saw it struggle to put the power down out of turn 10B that last time, but this is what I'm talking about. The Camaro has been winning the drag races. This time, it's going to be that huge Plymouth on their driver's right. Let's see if he can get the car slowed down and execute the pass this time. It seems like Darren Andrews might have lifted a little bit on the end of the back straightaway. So yeah, move Reece up into 7th, and now he's actually got a pretty big gap between himself and that next car of Nicholas Hillebrand.
Yeah, to the tune of around 11.4 seconds. We head back to the battle for what is around about 14th, 15th, and 16th. So the family for one of 2 Dodge Challengers, the only 2 Dodge Challengers we actually have on the field. And then there is Mark Johnson trying to close in. That's the number 18 Boss 302. And then we've got, I think that's Mike Mallon in the number 29, not too far behind. So a Challenger versus 2 Mustang Boss 302s. Great to see these cars and just hear them as well. Like you said, there's nothing better than, there's, with the displacement strapline you mentioned earlier on, Joey. But again, we see great battles in championships up and down the order. It's really, really good to see great battles up and down the order, but still, things are starting to open up between the top 3 because Devon Browner now has a 4/10 of a second advantage over Yannick Simoncic. Jesper Pedersen is losing out big time. Now, also one of the things that I saw with Pedersen's aggressive driving style, especially coming through here at turn 4, there was one point where we actually saw him completely sideways and trying to correct the car for turn 5. So I think Pedersen might be losing a bit more time in comparison with Simoncic, who at that point was sideways. Pedersen all 4 wheels onto the grass, and Browner just trying to keep the nose of the Camaro down coming out of T5.
I could have sworn that we're at Road Atlanta and not back at Riverside. There's a very, very famous quote from the stock car guys way back at Riverside, and they say, oh, the S's, do you mean that straightaway with the dirt in the middle of it? And that's exactly what these drivers are doing through the downhill S's here at Road Atlanta. They're just literally driving straight across the dirt and just finding themselves back up on the racetrack. And this is our leader. He's in the blue and yellow Camaro. He's going to be drafting, I believe that's Chris Gordon in that number 88 Ford Mustang Boss 302. And something we haven't seen yet today. Was that Simoncic in the Firebird with a little bit of overheating smoke coming out the back end? We've seen it come out of the Camaro. Haven't seen it out of the back of the 17 yet.
Yeah, so boot on the other foot, so to speak, now that Devon Browner's got clear air. And also catches the dusty grass coming out of turn number 12. And that's going to be another back marker. That's the 42. Declan Brush in the Chevy Camaro rounding out the top 18. And Simoncic decides to throw it around the outside as the old M&M. around through turn 1 and into 2, and then closes in on a rapid rate of knots. And look at the way that Simoncic just expertly guided the number 17 Firebird through turn 2, used the front tyre to rotate the back end of the car around, and now he's got a really good run coming out of turn 5, and a bit of a twitch from Devon Browner, who will have already have seen a lot of white, black and red in his rear view mirrors on that number 22 Chevy. But now the real fight isn't going to be between Browner, Simoncic and Pedersen. Pedersen is way back. He's 2.7 seconds back, and now can Simoncic get the draft on Devon Browner going into turn 10A, as we've got a brief yellow out in sector 3.
Let's watch these drivers prove me wrong. Just as I say that, the first car hits pit road, because this is officially past halfway. Lap 27.5 equals halfway here, so we've completed, or coming to complete, lap number 28. If you've made it this far, you can make it the rest of the way on fuel. I expect to see that strategy window open. However, they always prove me wrong. They never do what I'm thinking is going to happen in strategy. I think that Simoncic has this huge potential in terms of performance window, as we see Kantonen. You heard Alex give a little bit of a giggle there.
Yeah.
Talk about a huge power slide coming onto pit lane. We got to remember, the Trans Am, they don't have pit lane speed limits, so you can go as fast as you want into pit lane. And I think that Camaro of Kantonen gave a great example of that, didn't he?
I think he must have been at least doing a $110 going into pit road entry, as we get a bit of a wiggle from the tail end of Simoncic coming out of T5. I mean, he was completely sideways. I've seen how Oskari Kantonen has worked another historic retro series here on the R Factor 2 platform. And when Kantonen is on fire, you know about it and you will see it happen. But still, the interesting thing, I think it's going to be the case that Pedersen might be the first one to pit between him and Simoncic, if I'm completely honest with you, Joey, because Pedersen now is 2.5 seconds behind his teammate Simoncic, who they might be saying, well, you go after Devon, let me see what I can do on the pit stop, and then we build our strategy from that point.
I 100% agree with you. I think that's their best play right now. Neither one of the drivers are going far right. I think that's Mafanui Fleur. She was in the battle for that AM class podium position. I think that they are on pit road right now. Yep, here she is in the number 52. Remember, we were watching her battle it out. I believe it was Mark Johnson, Chris Gordon, Steph Hermans that were all involved in that. So the strategy window is officially open. The drivers are hitting pit road. There's another big wag of the tail from one of the CUDA crew members, Martin Beyer, as they hit pit road. Try to get it stopped. Slide to a stop here in the box. Number 71 of Nicholas Hillebrand hits pit road. Always love seeing Nicholas out here, and of course a huge shout out to everything that he does with the coordination here at HRSC, making sure all these drivers are up to date on all of the info, make sure the races go off without any sort of problems. He really is a huge part of it, so big shout out to Hillebrand over there. And this is Nikolai Bavenbeck. Now, Nikolai Bavenbeck is a 3-time race winner this season. He's led the AM class from the start of the green flag here at Road Atlanta, and he's just kind of cruising along in his blue number 66 Firebird currently.
Yeah, he's picked up, as you said, Joey, 3 wins so far. So round 2 at Road America, then the Billionaires Gamble at Second Mont Tremblant, and then, of course, last time out at the New York 250 at Watkins Glen. Other race winners in the AM class, Mike Mallon took the opening win of the season at Riverside, then Chris Gordon at Lime Rock Park at round 4, and then Mafanui Fleur also did take the W at Portland for the Abandoned City 225. So as now we see, well, Browner, Pedersen and Simoncic have all pitted at the same time. Are we going to see this duel to the death, mano a mano, right up until the checkered? Well, folks, it's the roller coaster ride here at Road Atlanta. I wouldn't expect anything different. These 3 drivers are out for glory, and they're gonna literally push the limits. But it's Simoncic that gets the jump on Devon Browner in the pit lane.
huge jump, and Pedersen kind of shot himself in the foot, unfortunately. I don't know if you caught that, but he slid through his pit box, had to grab reverse, back it up, and that is just all time lost on the racetrack. So we're going to focus on the number 94 because he's found his way all the way up into 4th place. Now, a lot of the leaders, right, they're just barely out in front of Reese, but Reese has not hit pit road yet. He still has to come down. Oh, we see 42. I believe that was Tom D getting out maybe a little bit too wide there in turn number 5. But I gotta think that the gas is probably running pretty light in that green and gold number 94. Reese Gardner is going to have to hit pit road here pretty soon as we see Steph Hermans. This is one of the AM class podium contenders right now, stopped in the box. And you see maybe just a little bit of brake pedal pressure. I actually appreciate seeing that because guess what? They were making sure they stopped in the box versus sliding through it. It's okay to give up a quarter second, maybe a half a second on the way in, but if you slide through it and have to grab reverse, you're giving up multiple seconds at that point. Better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, I think the way things are going at the moment, Fanwy Fleur could very well find herself back up into P3 because Steph Hermans and Mike Mallon are in pit road. Hermans done a 22.3, Mallon also a 22.3. The Motorsports number 29 Mustang Boss 302 now makes its way down pit road. But the big question is, Fanwy Fleur might only just be making her way outside of turns 11 and 12. And there she is. I've just spotted her coming across the stripe. So the race is really on for what is going to be the scraps on the dinner table. I mean, Mark Johnson, let's not forget, in the Mustang Boss 302 is yet to come down pit road here, Joey. So it is going to be a battle between Hermans, Mallon and Fleur for the final 2 steps on the AM rostrum in the final round of this, what has been an incredible race here at Road Atlanta.
Remember I had made the comment that Pedersen had slid through his box? Remember, he came in 3rd place, maybe only, what, 1.5? You had made the comment he was about 2.5 seconds off of that 1st and 2nd place battle. Now look where he is. Buried in 4th, nearly 10 seconds off of the lead. That's how quick and easy just a simple mistake can really separate you in terms of that track position on pit lane. You don't think about it, but just like that, a snap of the fingers, and all of a sudden you can kind of find yourself in a very, very lonely race out there. But Jurnej Simoncic pulled off the strategy to a T. I think that he might have been saving just a little bit. And what that does is that if he pits at the exact same time as everybody else, which he did, he actually has to take less fuel. Because why? He burned less fuel out there. That means he doesn't have to put as much in the tank. You got to fill it up with less fuel. Well, guess what? That equals a less time on pit road. That equaled about 3 seconds in terms of that track position. And look, now he's out here with no pressure at all.
Yeah, about 2.8 seconds up the road from Devin Browner, who's also done the straight line thing going through turns 3 and 4. So Devin Browner, a little bit quicker in the opening sector in comparison with Jurnej Simoncic, about a 10th up. But it's going to be about, you know, how much does Devin Browner want that win? And you look at the success of Jurnej Simoncic. He's won at Road America. He won at Lime Rock Park. He won last time out of Watkins Glen. And to cap the season off in the way that, you know, obviously having already wrapped up the, you know, the pro title. But then, of course, I come back to the team's title battle. And at the moment, you have to look at, with regards to the team from Rally International, and then you have to look at what's going on, because the way things are standing, even with the 1st and the 4th, that says to me that Rafa Racing Club will sew up the team's title at the final round of the season. I'm just wondering whether Rally Inc. guys are currently at the moment in terms of the actual on-track action, to be honest with you. So I'm going to have a quick look at that, Joey.
As you do that, we're watching Steph Hermans in this red 503 go through turn number 1. And important that the number 18 is on pit road. Remember Mark Johnson, he was involved in that AM class podium battle. So maybe a little bit of a long stop might drop him out of that 3rd place. We see David Bacca-Celadon come back out onto the track. in that bright green number 4 Dodge Challenger. Another one of those giant cars. I think in terms of the size of the vehicle, you know, the Plymouth Barracuda, one of the biggest out there, but I think the Dodge definitely has it beat by just a little bit. It also has a huge motor underneath it to help propel it down those straightaways, but Jurnej Simončić holding on to that lead. I'll say that it was 3 seconds. Alex pointed out that it was down to about 2.8, and now it's down to 2.2 seconds between himself and that blue and yellow Camaro that's been going so well today. Also, Jesper Pedersen starting to close it in on Askari Kantonen just that little bit, as well as David Backus. Celadon looks out to the right of Mike Mallon. This is the battle for what is 3rd place in the AM race currently. So move that high horsepower top end speed of the green number 4 up into a podium position currently.
Yeah, also looking at it from this perspective, I just had a look to see who are the rally international drivers that we've got. We've got Nikolai Bavenbeck leading the AMS. Chris Gordon is the 2nd car in that team and is currently running P6 in the AM classification. And you have to then look at what Rafa Racing Club are doing. 1st with Jurnej Simončić in Pro, and 4th with Jesper Pedersen. I don't know how the points work out because, like, literally, I got the call a few hours beforehand. By the points that they secure in their respective classes, to me, it's going to be nip and tuck with the Rally International or Rafa Racing Club are going to be the team's champions. It could come down to the wire, but I think maybe Rafa Racing Club, if Jesper Pedersen stays where he is or maybe gets up to 3rd, that could be job done.
A couple little conversation points here that I'm sure some of you might be wondering. Now, these are Trans Am cars, and when we think of current Trans Am, you might be thinking of like a tube chassis car with a fiberglass body over it. Well, these cars were around in the 60s and 70s, and they truly are based off of production cars. So they did start life as a street car and then got stripped out and made into a race car with the roll cages, the necessary safety and racing modifications to the fuel cells and whatnot. And you might say they might look very, very similar to a stock car. And stock cars from this era, actually incredibly similar. They started life just as the same as a production-based car and got stripped out and put into a roll cage and all this stuff. However, the big difference between stock cars and these Trans Am cars is that stock cars were primarily meant to turn left on an oval, while the Trans Am cars were truly a road racing series. These cars are set up to go to Riverside, go to Watkins Glen, go to places like Road Atlanta and turn both left and right. So through the 80s and 90s, I think the two series definitely kind of went their own separate directions. But back in this era of the 60s and 70s, they were incredibly similar in terms of the construction of the car. And unfortunately, it looks like our 3rd place runner, Askari Kantonen, has had some serious issues in turn 5.
Yeah, doesn't seem to have gone well for Askari Kantonen, the number 72 from Scuderia Baltica, who's the former Targa Sicilia winner. And yeah, just he's been involved in quite a few sim races, but yeah, that really has put him a long way behind. I'm not too sure if the car might be a little bit wounded at the back end there, Joey, because it doesn't seem that he's got full confidence in the car. If that back end is damaged, that could be game over for the 72. We're going to have a look at a replay here. All this is coming through into 4. Now he's going to go into 5. Oh, that's going to be a big old slide for the 72. Is he going to keep it out of the barriers? No, he hits the right rear and it spun the car around and flipped it into the air slightly. So Askari Kantonen has got rear right axle damage. So that's not only going to be the back axle, that's also going to be the drive shaft going to the gearbox. And Kantonen, no surprise there, Joey, in pit road.
So unfortunate for a driver that was really kind of sitting in the catbird seat for the majority of the first half of the race, just watching our top 3. And speaking of our top 3, this is Devin Braun. He has closed it back in on Simončić. And Alex, I want to ask you this. We watched the first half And there seemed to be a few little performance differences between the Camaro and the Firebird. But ever since that pit stop, this Camaro has drawn back in what was over a 3-second gap, now down to about 1.5 seconds. If you had to pick one, which one are you putting your money on for the end of this race?
I'm going to be honest with you, as much as I respect and admire what Jone Simoncic has achieved, Devin Browner is going to be the dark horse here, Joey. I mean, that car in clear air seems to have a performance advantage. And when then you also look at the fact of the different cars, the Chevy Camaro weighs 3,500 pounds. The Firebird has got less horsepower, but it's a bigger vehicle. The Camaro's got less of a bigger impact in terms of its dimensions. Yes, it's 110 pounds heavier, but it's got more horsepower. 412 from that 302 cubic inch small block V8, which is about 13 more horsepower than the 389 horsepower from the Firebird. So the Camaro, because it looks smaller, you see how wide the Firebird is front and rear, and also the fact is, yes, you could have a car that looks wider, looks bigger in all aspects, but if the car's a little bit more compact, it's going to help with the aerodynamics. And well, the Chevy Camaro to me looks to be the better car at the moment, because little by little Browner is not pushing the car to the point where he's going to throw it over the edge. He's just trying to keep Jone Simoncic on notice, and I think probably maybe with 5 laps to go, we'll get a real indication. But Jesper Pedersen, in the meantime, has put in a new fastest lap of the race on lap 38, or lap 37, 1:29.3. So Pedersen is pushing. I don't know how hard he's pushing thereof, because I'm wondering how many times he's clipped the grass on his way around the circuit.
He's been out there a couple times, and I want to give a big shout out to our director, Daniel Costello, behind the scenes, giving us this awesome dual camera view. We've got both of our leaders on screen. On the left side, overall leader, Jone Simoncic, only about 1.5 seconds ahead of second place. And then you had seen Nikolai Bavenbeck in the number 66 car. And conveniently now, we've gone down to one screen because they're both in the same shot right here. There's Bavenbeck rounding out of turn number 7, and our leader, Simoncic, right behind him. You see both of the cars, Pontiac Firebirds. It seems to be the car of choice today here at Road Atlanta. It hasn't always been the car of choice. We have said that Simoncic is a 3-time winner, but there have been several times that he has not had the most performing car out there. It's been the Plymouth Barracuda, it's been the Chevy Camaro, but I think the consistency overall, that Pontiac Firebird is a very, very well-rounded choice. And speaking of more Firebird action, the choice of the number 503, that's Steph Hermans, currently in the second place in AM, so occupying the top 2 spots in the AM class.
What's quite interesting is that I'm not too sure. Mark Johnson's pitted, Mike Mallon's pitted, so it's going to be a very, very tall order for Mifan Wifler to get into the top 3, let alone the top 4 in AMS, as she's currently running P5. And there goes Steph Hermans off the circuit at T1 going up the hill. So the number 503 Pontiac Firebird just having a little bit of a moment, and then you see the front rotors on that car glowing red. And thank you very much, Joey, for reminding me about the fact if drivers took tyres, and Jesper Pedersen actually did take tyres in his pit stop as well, didn't he?
Yeah, and I'm actually pretty surprised that it hasn't paid dividends for him. I had made the comment that he popped out, call it 8 to 10 seconds behind where he originally was, and he's still about that. He still call it about 8 seconds back from the lead, so the new tires are not working out for Jesper Pedersen, and what is working out for Simoncic is all of this traffic that Devin Braun is having to deal with. He makes a huge late lunge. Does the car see him? Yes, I believe he does. So Devin Braun gets by one of those other Chevy Camaros. I think that's the number 42 that he was getting around, the 042 of Declan Brush, getting out of the way there in turn 10A, and then out of the way in turn 11 for Nikolai Bavenbeck. But that was really important for the number 22 car, our second place runner, because he got choked up behind a lap car. The laps are running out. Those opportunities, you need to close them in and capitalize.
Yeah, Mike Mallon's just had a big old off coming out of turn 7, and that's going to allow Van to close the gap a little bit. In the meantime, that gap was about 5.5 seconds. It's now gone to 4.4 as the Fish Motorsport number 52 Dodge Challenger tries to close on in. And again, just for the latter stages of this race, also we've got to consider the fact of mental and physical exertion. You know, these drivers have been pushing like crazy for quite a lengthy time. Once we got green flag racing here at Road Atlanta, there's still another 15 laps to go, but still, we're not out of the woods quite yet. I mean, Devin Browner's got that gap down to 1.4 seconds, even though Simoncic just put in a 30.8. Browner a 31.0. Pedersen, in the meantime, a 30.1. So you said about tyres that, with regards to Pedersen, that it might not help him. But I'm thinking maybe in the latter stages, when we get to, 10 laps to go, maybe Pedersen could be a little bit closer than the 6.8 seconds he is behind Devin Browner, who is drifting it slightly coming out of T12.
So this is that incident with Mike Mallon, and this is actually pretty important here. Let's see, just way too much speed in turn 7. I can't tell if he hit the wall or not from the direction. It doesn't look like he hit the wall. If he did, it didn't look like big contact, but the reason why that's important, Mike is currently sitting in 4th in that AM class currently. He's only about 2.5 seconds off of Mark Johnson in front, and Van Fleur, she's actually not very far back from Mike Mallon, so that mistake definitely cost him quite a bit of track time. Just have to keep our eye on kind of how that 3rd, 4th, 5th shakes up in the AM classes. Once again, just as Alex was pointing out, the Camaro does have a little bit of a performance advantage when there's no lap cars around, right? In clean air, and when it can do its thing, it seems to hit the apexes and then just charge down the straightaway with a ton of a head of steam here and close it in on the Firebird. And you can actually look at that interval and how it just closes in down the straightaway. Seems that Devin's got his brake marker picked out, is plenty comfortable with the car driving sideways, sometimes even only on 2 wheels as he bounces it up and over the curbs. But we're going to see as it comes down to about 15 laps remaining, if he's got what it takes to become a 2-time winner here in the HRSC Championship, or if Yerne is going to become a 4-time winner this season.
Yeah, Yerne on that particular occasion did a 130.558. Browner a 130.577. So the performance gains that Devin Browner is getting, I mean, he's getting like about half a tenth to 6/100ths a sector in the opening 2 sectors in comparison with Simoncic. But that time around, he's just lost nearly 4 tenths in the opening sector. So the gap has gone back up to close to 1.92 seconds. So, yeah, I think when Browner's in clear air, the Camaro's stronger in a straight line. But once it starts picking up that dirty air with all that exhaust, smoke coming through into the radiators and the air intake and the inlet manifold, that's where the engine starts to choke a little bit on the fumes that are coming into it, rather than that cool, dense, breathable air that really helps a short block V8 really perform at its best. As now we've got Austin Birchfield in the number 31, and he is right with Darren Andrews in the number 9 Chevy coming through into T1. This is the battle for 7th place overall, and they're just behind, well, they're a little bit further behind likes of Reese Gardner, who's in 6th, as Austin Birchfield muscles the number 31 Boss 302 through into turns 3 and into, or you can just see the amount of the centre of exhaust that gets caught underneath with the curbing, and the left front wheel in the air for Reese Gardner, for Darren Andrews, but Birchfield's not giving Andrews much room to breathe. Hillebrand currently running P5, in the number 71 car. But Austin Birchfield looking to try and get a move up the inside of Garner. He's going to try and nose it through coming out of turn 7 as Andrews tries to keep out of the way. Birchfield's going to pull it to the right-hand side, down through T8 and into 9. This is going to be a drag race here to turn 10A, Joey, as Birchfield edges ahead by a car length, heading into the heavy braking zone down the hill.
Looks like the Mustang is going to secure that 7th place position, so move that number 31 of Austin Birchfield up 1, slide the Camaro of Darren Andrews back to 8th, and shout out to Austin because that is the furthest forward Ford Mustang Boss 302 we've got running. We haven't seen much of them up towards the front here at Road Atlanta, but Austin seems to have that thing hooked up. Doing his best Vaughn Gittin impression there in turn number 1, picking up a little bit of tire smoke as check in on another one of those Mustangs. This is Mike Mallon in the number 29 car. Remember, we had watched him go off at turn number 7, call it a handful of laps ago. He's actually recovered quite nicely, was falling into the clutches of Nathaniel Fleur, but he's put the hammer down as it closed the gap actually to the car in front. Mark Johnson, you see that maroon car that just escaped out of screen going down the back straightaway? Well, that's the 3rd place in that AM class. So if Mike Mallon in the white number 29 can close it up to that maroon Ford Boss 302, we'll have a fight for that AM class podium, that 3rd place.
Yeah, that could be quite riveting to watch with just around about 10 laps remaining here at Road Atlanta. This has just been absolutely captivating. The sheer noise of the naturally aspirated muscle cars, the short block V8s just powering their way through the corners, and everyone just trying to give it everything as we see flames shoot from the tailpipes of the Pontiac Firebird from Nikolai Bavenbeck in the number 66. And the interesting thing is Reese Gardner is closing in on Nicholas Hilbrand, and he's just set a personal best. He's just done a 1:33.69. Nicholas Hilbrand's last lap time 1:31.590. Oh, now if he's closing in at a second a lap, Nicholas Hilbrand has got reason to be worried here, Joey.
I think he does, as we're watching the 66, who's just been in command all race long. Tip of the cap here to Nikolai Bavenbeck. We had mentioned multi-time winner already this series, and just hasn't had anybody even approach that rearview mirror here at Road Atlanta. If you ask me, maybe it's time to move Bavenbeck out of that AM class and have him start to swim with the big sharks over there in the pros. That's how the natural ladder of things works out. Oh, you saw him hit the brakes there. I think that was the 42, maybe Tom D, I believe, in one of the Chevy Camaros off to driver's right at the top of the hill at turn 3 right there. You see, oh, I'm sorry, it was not Tom D. There's the number 41 of Tom D. It was the number 42 car. I believe it was Jonathan D. So my bad on the name miscall there, but this was the car at the top of the hill in turn 3. And back to Alex's point, I've been watching that Reese Gardner car, and he's been setting fast lap after fast lap. He actually just got held up. This lap was his first lap that was slower than the car of Nicholas Hildebrand in front. And it's because he's having to go around these AM class cars. He had just made his way around Mike Mallon, and now he's got to deal with Mark Johnson. And remember, these are the cars that are fighting for that AM class podium. They're not slow. However, they're also not just going to pull over and let Reese by. Reese is a good competitor. He's going to have to work his way around. He's not going to drive dirty, but it will kind of slow the momentum that he's got trying to get himself a top 5.
Yeah, and with 10 to go, it's dependent on how Reese can actually use this back marker traffic to his advantage. Of course, coming out of here at T7, you know, if you've got a car in front of you, you can use that slipstream to your advantage, get a few miles an hour additional speed coming down into turn 10A. So this could be quite crucial in how Reese decides how he's going to just sort of circumnavigate his way through that, because next up is going to be Steph Hermans. And you look at the sector splits. I mean, Reese Gardner just did a 42.6. then you look at Steph Herman's 45.9. Of course, yeah, we're comparing between pros and AMs in terms of the speed differential and also the confidence with regards to these cars. But it's just dependent on how quickly you can circumnavigate that traffic, as Mark Johnson has got Mike Mallon less than half a second away. So it's game on with 9 to go in the final step of the rostrum for the AM classification in the final round here for the the Trans Am Series by HRSC here on Genesis Extreme. This is going to be right down to the wire, but Mallon looks to be very, very quick indeed. But you've got to factor in that Mark Johnson at his pit stop did take a set of new tyres, and that could prove to be a bit of a saving grace possibly.
I think the one caveat, though, is that this white number 29, well, he is a previous winner. Oh, looks to the inside of turn 7, but you really want to capitalize on the exit, and I think that Mark Johnson did exactly that. Put his foot to the floor, and both of these cars are identical, right? They're both Ford Mustang Boss 302, so I wouldn't expect to see any sort of top speed difference. The only thing that you're going to have is the benefit of the tow, the slipstream going down the back straightaway at Road Atlanta. But Mike Mallon won the opening round over at Riverside in that AM class, so it would be great to see him back on the podium to kind of cap off the end of the season. But Mark Johnson is in his way. He's going to try to spray some virtual champagne at the end of this. And you heard Alex say less than 10 laps remaining here at Road Atlanta. It really is coming down to a duel. Just a handful of corners and passing opportunities are going to be what's presented to these drivers that are going to be close enough to potentially make that move. And there was a big driving line difference between the two cars. You saw Mike Mallon pretty much cut the course over turn 3. That is totally acceptable and okay here at Road Atlanta. They have all of that apex curbing, and you can use it all, jump the car up over those corners, as we see Austin Birchfield in the number 31 have to come down pit lane. This is kind of what I was talking about with that strategy. Last time out at Watkins Glen, it kind of puzzled me a little bit, and we might have some more cars running out of fuel with a few laps to go.
Yeah, also the biggest development now is that look who is just ahead of Mark Johnson and Mike Mallon, Steph Hermans. So this battle is not just for P3, it's also for the runner-up step on the rostrum, because Steph Hermans is only 1.6 seconds ahead of Mark Johnson, who in turn is about 4 tenths ahead of Mike Mallon, who's got smoke billowing from the exhaust. As we said, we have seen it all the way through this race that when you're running in dirty air, it's going to overheat the coolant and the oil in these short block V8s, and what's more, it could also be a slight drop in performance, maybe acceleration, maybe straight line speed and pure grunt from these short block V8s. But now Johnson in 13th, Hermans in 12th, Mallon in 14th. The battle for the final 2 steps on the AM rostrum, it's game on.
I think that Steph Hermans had a little bit of a mistake, and we're going to see what happened to the number 48. Oh, just a little bit too much speed, a big wiggle in turn number 1, and it's right in front of our leader. See what happens as they crest up over the hill, and then here comes the second place car. Remember that Devin Braun is trying to keep up and goes over under a little bit of contact with that left rear. Unfortunately sends Jason Field into the driver's left tire barrier. That's a tough one, Alex. I understand Devin's point of view, right? He's not trying to give up any more time to Simoncic, but you also can't just drive through a competitor out there on the racetrack. I'm sure that race control will probably talk to both of them after.
I would, yeah, it's difficult to call on that one. I mean, Devin had the speed, but obviously if you're the faster vehicle, you've got to make the move safely. And you know, Jason Field was entitled to stay on his racing line. That's going to be a DNF for him. David Bacca-Celadon has also DNF'd from what would have been 16th place on the road. So we've lost 5 cars. We're down to 18 in total, which is a real shame. But yeah, I think it's just difficult when you look at it. And this is David Bacca-Celadon. Oh, this is going to be, oh, don't tell me he's going to lose it, and it's going to go nose end in. And the Automex Dodge Challenger, oh, that is definitely out to pasture, I'm afraid. The engine literally spontaneously combusting as Celadon went in. I think probably at least a ton going into that wall, just lost the back end of the car completely. And, well, that was all she wrote there.
We've seen some impressive crashes on RF2 throughout the series here, but that has been the only graphic that I've seen one physically on fire before. So, you know what? Round of applause for David Celadon, showing me something I haven't seen yet in one of these, and definitely happy it's the virtual world. You just get to press the reset button, get back out there as Jurne Simoncic just kind of wags the tail up over turn number 5. Something you don't see very often, at least in the rear world. You got all that extra camber and grip and compression. That right rear tire will grab one of those things and really send the car. But with these Trans Am cars, they're happy to kind of have the yaw angle. That's how they like to drive. And I was making the comment that Devin Braun had lost a little bit of time after he had turned that, I believe it was the number 48, getting caught up behind. He hasn't been able to make that up, maybe a few tenths, but he's still sitting back there about 2.2 seconds back and only a handful of laps remaining now, about 5 to go.
Yeah, and now Mark Johnson really closing in on Steph Hermans for that second place, the runner-up spot in the AM classification. And, well, Mike Mallon is about 3 seconds behind. He's lost a bit of time. Oh, mistake there from Helmans. And Johnson round the outside at turn 3 to get second in AM. Great sort of spatial awareness from Johnson. He saw that Hermans was definitely feeling the pressure. And Hermans went deep into turn 3. Johnson just pinned it to the outside. And that was a great bit of anticipation for the number 18 to take second in class.
Racecraft is what we call it. You got to look through the competitors, see that road, and when there's some crazy stuff going on through your windshield, you got to make sure you get to that open road. Don't drive through them, and it's exactly what Mark Johnson did. Saw Steph Hermans getting way out of shape off the driver's left. He just simply stayed on the racing line, took away that second place position in the AM class, and this is a little bit busy up front here. This is 8th place overall. Tom D currently right behind Darren Andrews. Now, Tom is in the number 41 car. Darren Andrews is in that blue and yellow number 9. And we've actually seen Darren kind of start to fall back just a little bit throughout this race. I wonder if Tom D is kind of looking to capitalize on the performance fall off, especially since there's only less than a handful of laps remaining for everybody. That window is starting to close.
Yeah, it really, really is. And with just a handful of laps remaining, I mean, Steph Herman's really got to try and put something magical to get that second place back. And that's going to be quite crucial, if I'm completely honest here, Joey, because if Hermans can get back that second position, that'll fill him with a lot of confidence after this race. And at the moment, as we speak, I'm just looking into how the team standings is going to be working out with regards to Rally International and the Rafa Racing Club, because we are coming down to the wire on how those two teams could be placed at the end of what has been an exciting 7-round Trans Am series.
Look at how busy it is on lap number 53. Almost some contact there. That's the number 9 car of Darren Andrews making his way through a few of the cars that are maybe a lap or two down. The number 52, that's Mafanui Fleur in that pink car right in front of this train. Then we've got Darren Andrews, and then we've got Chris Gordon in the yellow, red, and blue number 88. Then is our leader, Jurne Simoncic. That's the Pontiac Firebird, that Rafa Racing Club. And this is so tedious through here because you have to play nice. You can't put your bumper to any of these cars, but they might be a little bit more off pace than what you are expecting, than what your usual race pace is. You have to be patient, but how patient can you be when Devin Braun is only 2.5 seconds back? 3 laps remaining for these drivers as our leader sees more extracurricular activities going on in front. Gets by Mafan Fleur to drivers right nicely. And now all he's got is Darren Andrews in that blue and yellow Camaro that goes too hot into turn number 3. That opens the door. He is going to be in the grass. Hopefully he doesn't come back on track in front of Chris Gordon. That was almost side-to-side contact, and in fact might have even held up his teammate Devin Braun a little bit.
Oh, dearie me. That is not what you want right about now. Also, looking at the way things stand, with 1st and 6th in the AM classification, that's 26 points, puts Rally International on 182. Rafa Racing Club 8 points shy at this moment in time, because it's 20 for a win, 12 for 3rd place. If it was 16 points, then it would be 182 plays 176. So Rally in, if they keep it as it is, if Chris Gordon stays in 6th position, Bavenbeck very much at the moment trying to get through, but Jesper Pedersen is trying to look for a move up the inside. Oh, he's 2 wheels in the air, through into turn 10B and A. Well, Devin Brown really has to watch himself right about now. This could be a great way for Rafa Racing Club to end this season with a 1-2. It will put them within 6 points of the team's title, but a welcome way if Jesper Pedersen can get through on Devin Brown with 2 to go.
There's more action at the top of the hill. This is going to be crucial for Pedersen, and now he turns Gordon into the driver's left wall. You never want to see that happen. He was getting held up a little bit, and now he's got another Camaro coming back right in front of him as we see Devin Brown fought with Mafan Fleur trying to get to turn 5 first. It's so important. It just seems like the threads have unraveled here with a lap and a half remaining at Road Atlanta. Jurne Simoncic is cruising comfortably with 4.5 seconds out front, but you see Devin Braun has extreme pressure in the form of Jesper Pedersen coming out of turn number 7. The other one I want to point out, Reese Gardner has closed what was 14 seconds all the way up to 1 second behind Nicholas Hillebrand for what will be a top 5 finish as we ride on the roof of the Rafa Racing Club Firebird. Let's see, does he make a move late on the brakes? No, he's going to have to wait till next lap.
Well, this is really coming down to the wire. It really is at the moment. And Jesper Pedersen's got to throw everything on it, because we're going to go on to the white flag lap here at Road Atlanta. Pedersen versus Browner. It's on for 2nd position as we've got a yellow out in Sector 2. Jurne Simoncic on course for 4 race wins here in this HRSC Trans Am Series. Pedersen looking for the move that could secure him 2nd ahead of Devin Browner.
We've seen this entire front group be very aggressive, and there's more fender-on-fender contact. We're going to have our battle for what is 2nd place on the driver's left screen. Our overall leader, Jurne Simoncic, on the right screen. An excellent run from the number 917. He's going to look down to the inside of turn number 6. I wouldn't be surprised to see Devin Braun let him go. That's exactly what I'm expecting. He just needs to capitalize on the run out of turn number 7. How many times today have we seen this Camaro have excellent top-end speed and already pulling out drivers right? He thought about it. He wants drivers left, though. He wants to be on the inside of turn 10A. Simoncic just in front of him is going to be hitting the brakes into the chicane, but it's all Firebird versus Camaro. They're crowding each other in the brake zone. Dueling going in, banging doors side by side. Braun's going to come out at turn 10B the fastest, but who can put the power down as Jurne Simoncic collects the checkered flag for a 4th time this season. And I believe it is going to be Braun hanging on to 2nd in the Camaro. Pedersen crossing the line in 3rd.
The only big thing that I've just noticed, Chris Gordon is down pit lane. That's the big thing here. Nikolai Bavenbeck is on course to take the checkered, but his teammate is outside of the top 6. We are going to come down to the wire as to finding out whether Rally International are gonna be the season champions for the teams. Bavenbeck out of the final corner. It's been lights out to checkered flag for the 66 and wins by a country mile. Mark Johnson, 43.7 seconds behind, has gotten away, and Hermans is ahead of Mallon. Mallon has got to do something dastardly into turns 10A and 10B to get the final podium position in the AM as we come down to the final couple of corners.
Who can be latest on the brakes? Mallon certainly is going to put a fender in. Can he get the car stopped? No, he goes through the grass. Can Steph Hermans put the foot down? It is the run to the flag. Mike Mallon has the inside. Steph Hermans has the momentum. Who's it going to be? It's going to be down to the wire. Steph Hermans is going to cross the line first as they both spin out, wrecking on the front straightaway, taking all of the signage with them. If that isn't a way to end a championship in a season, I don't know what is.
Well, provisionally, by my calculations, your season team's champions. Okay, it came down to 8 points. Rafa Racing Club picked up, 6 points at the end of it all. Rafa Racing Club 174. Rally International provisionally are on 180 points. 24 scored by Bavenbeck and Gordon put them provisionally as the champions in the teams.
Coming down to the wire here. What an impressive way to end off this 7-race HRSC Trans Am season provided by Genisus Extreme. We're going to have our official results pop up on the screen here for you. I can let you know it was Jurnej Simončić, your race winner, 4-time race winner this season. Just dominance from the Rafa Racing Club and that Pontiac Firebird. This is your pro results here. Jurnej Simončić followed with Devin Braun. Just gave us an excellent race throughout all 55 laps today. Jesper Pedersen providing some intense racing action. I think it was twice that he went from third to first today. So just amazing drive from all three of those front guys. Martin Beyer hangs on to a 4th place pro finish. Reese Gardner coming home in 5th. He did manage to get by Nicholas Hillebrand there at the end. Tom D finishing in 7th. Darren Andrews in 8th. Austin Birchfield in 9th place in the pro class. Gerard Rion in 10th place. And I believe we have a few more just across the page here in 11th, 12th, and 13th. That was David Bakaseladon, unfortunately, with the DNF. We saw Askari Kantanen showed so much promise early on, running inside the top 4, hanging with our leaders, had that incident in turn number 5. And then also, unfortunately, Nicholas Kirsten and that Ford Mustang Boss 302 did not finish today's race. Over to the AM standings, Alex.
Yeah, well, Nikolai Bavenbeck taking the win by a considerable margin, the best part of nearly 45 seconds ahead of Mark Johnson, with Steph Hermans rounding out the top 3. Mike Mallon, close but no cigar for the number 29 from MM Motorsports, with Mafan Flirt rounding out the top 5. Declan Brush and Chris Gordon rounding out the top 7. It really came down to the wire with regards to possibly the team's title, which might have gone the way of Rally International, might have gone the way of Rafa Racing Club, but I'm sure we'll have that confirmed in due course. Jonathan D, well, had his trials and tribulations, finished 8th, with Jason Field finishing 4 laps down, and Daniel Herlock, one of the earliest casualties on the within the first 5 laps, hitting the tyre barriers hard on the outskirts of turn number 1, one of our guest starters ending up DNFing.
I want to give a shout out to everybody who's been watching as the Blue Angels. I hear them ripping over the house right now. Kind of reminds me of a metal band, kind of like the Sex Pistols, almost like Death Pistol out there, who's been watching us all day long on this Genisus Extreme Network. Thank you for everybody taking off and watching us throughout this entire 7-race series. What we're waiting on right now is a few of these drivers to be joining us in the commentary room, so that way we can interview them, get their thoughts on exactly how they thought Road Atlanta went. But Alex, I want to get your thoughts. What did you think about overall today? You did an excellent job keeping up with the points, which my brain can never actually do. So thank you very much for that. But honestly, the top 4 and then the top 3 at the end, wow, what a race.
I really felt sorry for Oskar Kantonen. Having that big moment coming out of T5, the back axle, the prop shaft being compromised, then having to DNF after what was such a great run for the Flying Finn. But the battle between Simoncic, Pedersen, and Palmer, I've seen them in action so many times on R Factor 2. It was just so great for them for the first half of the race to just go absolutely hammer and tongs, full throttle. Nothing was left to chance, and everyone gave it 115% and more, especially when it came to track limits. It was completely crazy, but I loved every single second of it, Joey.
It reminded me of Riverside, because we started the year at Riverside and they have that S section. Now, albeit it's kind of more of a dirt S section than it is through the grass S section of Road Atlanta, but it's just what we saw there. Drivers going straight through it, not minding anything about the turns. And sometimes with these heavy Trans Am cars, that's exactly what happens. They're 4,000 plus pounds out there. They got a ton of horsepower, and we have to remember the tire construction, the tires, they're built totally different. The grip levels are totally different. And so therefore, you have to drive them a little bit different. They don't always do exactly what you want them to do out there. But nevertheless, an extremely impressive feat from all of the drivers that we saw throughout the championship, throughout all of the 7 rounds here. Doesn't matter if you were driving one of the Pontiac Firebirds, the Chevy Camaros, the Dodge Challengers, all of them. It was really, really cool to see out there. And like I said, what a way to end a 7-race championship.
It was the best circuit to make that call. You see so many championships, especially with, like, say, IMSA, with Petit Le Mans race here, year in, year out. It's one of the biggest spectacles. It's one I always have to do the red eye when it comes to looking at my laptop whenever I watch the streams on IMSA.com. But it's a great circuit. It really provides a true test. It doesn't matter what you put on this circuit, be it muscle cars, be it modern-day GT3s, Formula 4s. Road Atlanta is one of those tracks that drivers love to challenge themselves with, and with the different types of turns, the different elevations. That's what makes it so wonderful to see racing here, no matter what you're racing in.
We saw lots of racing, including racing I didn't expect 3 wide into turn 1 up through the middle at some points, but looks like we've got our 2 winners. We're going to start with our pro winner. That was Jurnej Simoncic, 4 times a winner in the 7-race championship. Congratulations on standing on the top step yet again.
Thank you. That has been one seriously fun race.
It looked like it from our point of view. What was it like from your point of view? I'm sure that you're still sweating.
Yeah, I am for sure. Especially the first stint was crazy. Like battles P1 to P4, back to P1. Position didn't really matter. It was just all about who survives it and then who maybe thinks more long term. I was among the whole battle. I was just thinking, well, I should not overpush the tires and I should save the fuel. And I think what saved me in the end was that I actually saved the most tires and I could emerge into P1. And also a little bit of fuel saving made me still lead after the pit stops.
That's kind of what I was trying to put together, but you had mentioned the racing in the first fuel stint. I have to ask you, are you and Pedersen on the same radio? Are you guys coordinating maybe some moves, or is it just you two as teammates working together knowing where your competitors are?
We were in the same voice chat, but we actually never coordinated any move. One time at the start of the race, I just asked him if he wants to go through, so I would lift, but he said no, I should keep going. And after that, all that you saw on track was just understanding where we are and where Devin was, and just trying to survive and give slipstreams to each other and come out on the top after that. So, and it worked quite well.
Well, Jurnej, incredibly impressive, the performance today. Incredibly impressive, the performance. All 7 races, 4-time winner. Just complete dominance this season. Thank you for coming out and racing with us. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to or say hi to?
Well, our biggest shout out would be towards Rafa Racing Club for telling us that we should drive here because we wanted to, but it's probably not the most important racing that we have to do. But at the same time, this is what it is all about, like these nice communities that gather around such nice ideas, like being kind of a living museum of how the racing was half a century ago. So really, shout out to my dear team, and also to Nico for organizing all this.
Well, that was Jurne Simoncic, your Pro Championship winner, 4-time race winner, and of course, winning today here at Road Atlanta. I believe that Alex has caught up with our AM class winner. I believe he's standing by with Nikolai Bavenbeck.
Yeah, Nikolai, in the same vein of form as with Jurne Simoncic, you picked up the AM class title, 4 wins, 1 at Road America, Mont Tremblant, Watkins Glen, and now here at Road America, at Road Atlanta. You were very much untroubled. It must have been a pretty good way to start the season that way.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously a bit of a surprise to have a new venue at like the last moment, but I kind of just got on with it. First of all, I really enjoy Road Atlanta. It's a great track to drive. So yeah, I just had a good time today.
I think also because there was a very interesting battle that we tried to keep an eye on for most of the race, and I ended up trying to keep an eye on, I think possibly because your teammate, Chris Gordon, finished 7th, which I think by the merest smattering of points, I think Rally International are the season teams champions by less than 5, I think it was 5 or 6 points in it at the end. I mean, Chris was put a little bit through the ringer in the latter stages of the race. I think he also ended up in the barriers at one point, but managed to bring the car home 7th. Obviously, that is provisional at the moment, but still to be battling with the likes of Jesper Pedersen and Jurne Simoncic for the potential teams title, that must have been a mouth-watering prospect when you guys went, oh, these guys are racing too.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big question mark for me towards the end of the race when I heard Gordon had issues. I was also monitoring his position for like class points as well. But if that is true, then that is fantastic for us. But yeah, it's one of the nice things about this championship that we've, as predominantly an AM team, we have Robin DeVos, who's a pro driver who couldn't make this race, unfortunately, is able to compete on a somewhat level footing along some like the best pros that we see. And you don't get that anywhere else, and that's been a great fun to do. It was a surprise when we were leading coming out of Riverside, and we kind of just hung on to it through luck more than anything, I feel like, at times. But it's been great fun, and a great bunch of drivers I've been teamed up with in Chris and Robin and Steve. So we're very happy.
One question before we let you go, Nikolai. Are we going to see you gunning against Pedersen, Simoncic if you get the opportunity? Be real with us here.
No, in no way. I mean, I can be a great moving chicane for them, but that's about it. On actual pace, that's all I got for them. But the way the point structure is here, I was able to fight, in inverted commas, with them. But, I'm just a chicane for those guys. They're just incredible to watch.
Brilliant stuff, Nikolai. Anyone you want to give a shout out to before we let you go this evening?
I mean, you guys, first of all, coming in here, commentating, producing, doing this whole thing the whole year. I assume, like, for us, you guys are making the big money doing historic Trans Am race broadcasting.
No comment
of course.
on that one.
Yes, duh.
Yeah. I figured that's why we're all here. But no, you guys for doing this, the organisers as well, Nico and the rest there, it's a passion project for everybody and all the competitors as well, and my teammates, of course, for putting in such a great effort whole season.
Brilliant. Nikolai Bavenbeck, our AM class champion. Congratulations. Thanks for jumping in, and I'm sure our paths will cross in the not too distant future, my friend. Well, I think last but by no means least, Joey Adelbury, you've got the man behind all this madness. You're catching up with a certain Nicholas Hillbrand.
Yeah,
Hello there.
Mr. Hillebrand, thank you very much for joining us at the end of the season. You joined us at the beginning. We've done 7 races so far, and I know that you were in the car the last couple hours, but I think that this one was the most exciting race we have had yet. What a way to cap this one off. Road Atlanta provided some awesome action.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a little bit unfortunate in the end because, if I had known the track issues were going to be a thing with Sonoma beforehand, I would have switched way earlier so people could have gotten more practice in, of course. But, it was pretty much an equalizer for everyone in the end. And, nevertheless, we still got a very interesting race. And I hope that people are now, holding their breath for the next series, which starts in 4 weeks.
That's what I want to ask you about. We just wrapped up the 7-race HRSC season here on Genesis Extreme. What is next?
So next up, we're going to be looking 20 years back to the past, where Niki Lauda didn't say anything about racing yet. But yeah, we're going to go back to the 1954 World Sports Car Series mod by Wuchu. All the cars there are, 3D molded out of an AC Cobra and, pretty much just physics adjusted to represent 25 different models out of that year, out of 4 different classes, the 3 liter plus, 3 liter, 2 liter, and 1.5 liter. And we'll be having 3 to 6 hour races in those.
That sounds pretty dang fun. And if anybody is interested in how do you sign up, how do you get involved, Nico, how do they do that? Where's the easiest place to find you and get in contact and come participate?
Well, from now on, we're going to be able to be found on Grid Finder, which is going to be great. The guys have been insanely helpful, helping me basically set up the community page on their website now. I'm going to be looking very forward to working with them. And basically, you can find our Discord link there. On there, I'm first going to put a sign-up link with, multiple car choices that they can make as a free selection, so to say, so we can look into, who wants to get into what car, who is someone that we know already, that we know can handle, for example, the bigger cars like the 5.5 liter V8 cars and stuff, And it's just all with visibility up from here. Grid Finder is a good place to find us. Otherwise, we do have our Discord, of course, where a majority of the communication is going to be. And we're open to anyone who wants to join us.
Well, you heard it here. If you guys want to come have fun with this group, I highly suggest you do it. Go and join, and hopefully we'll see you on the screen in the future. Nikolai, I just want to say thank you so much for providing us this championship. Thank you so much for continuing to work and provide future racing for everybody. I really do think it was successful.
Yeah, thank you very much for the compliments. Thanks to you guys as well for making an absolutely fantastic and impeccable broadcasting team. Thanks for Alex to join in as well in last minute. We know each other for quite a long time already, and it's a very cool coincidence that for the end of the first season he's joining us as well, since we've known each other quite a long time from the commentary booth, and it's all just interlocking now.
Well, speaking of which, let's bring Alex back in here. And, I know that you weren't here for the beginning half of the season, but you got to close out the final championship round here at Road Atlanta. We were talking a little bit about it at the end of the race, but, I mean, what a great way. What great cars on a cool track. And what's even better, we got more to look forward to with another group of cars.
Yeah, I mean, it seeing those old school Pontiac Firebirds reminded me of Burt Reynolds' Bandit in Smokey and the Bandit back in the day. That was one of the childhood movies. I mean, these cars are, iconic. It doesn't matter whether it's the Cuda, whether it's the Chevy, whether it's the Mustang Boss 302. Of course, also someone who raced Mustangs for quite a long time. Of course, Parnell Jones, we lost quite recently. Was a big part of the Ford brand, also running Mustangs. It just really, really brought me back to to the old days of sports car racing, and obviously with these production-based cars, you know, where a lot of sports car championships, a lot of touring car championships sort of started with running on production scale vehicles, and then went to what we see now with IMSA, with supercars down in Australia, the Australian Touring Car Championship. They were based on production vehicles. The same with the cars that we've had here for the Trans Am series. It's just been absolutely wonderful, and hearing those exhaust notes just really brought me kicking and screaming back to my childhood back in the 80s, and which was really, really wonderful. So to be a part of this final race of this Trans Am series has been an absolute pleasure, and to work alongside you for the first time as well, Joe, it's been an absolute hoot.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words. You're making us all blush over here. But that's going to do it for the HRSC series by Genisus Extreme, the Trans Am Racing series. And thanks to the team today, that includes Daniel, Alex, and Christian behind the scenes, as well as Nico really putting on all of the racing. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
As well as contact already, and the number 3 goes sideways fire into the wall. He's already bounced off the side of the car next to him. I'm not sure.